In this extremely hot real estate market, buyers are implementing different tools, tricks, and strategies. In fact, I literally have an email of different tools, tricks, and strategies that I will send to my clients and discuss that maybe we don't have to use all of them or even most of them, but here are some different options for you as a buyer to stand out above the crowd without necessarily having to mortgage your future in regards to just putting an extreme price. Some of those are, yes, price, terms, contingencies, time to close, earnest money going hard. Well, today's video is going to discuss with you one trick, one tool that I have used to help set apart my buyer from other buyers in this hot seller's market, which is paying for some of the seller's closing costs. These are costs that the seller is responsible to pay to consummate a deal. The title company will give you a settlement statement that details all of the contractually agreed upon closing costs, and there is where you, upon writing your contract with your agent, can detail out what you as a buyer are willing to pay. Now, historically, when I talk to my buyers, I suggest for them to anywhere between 1.5% to 2% of your loan's value in closing costs, depending on what time of the month you close and a few other factors, discount points, and things of that nature that will have to be brought to closing on top of your down payment. So for simple numbers' sake, let's take $550,000. Your closing costs could be anywhere between $7,000 to $10,000, depending again on when you close and what was negotiated. Now, I've seen it a whole lot less, but I am a very conservative person when it comes to settlement statements. Again, I don't know if you guys have watched previous videos, but I was burned on my first house on closing costs, and it was a terrible feeling. So I will never let my clients do that. So if this is a tool that you are looking to implement to pay some of these sellers' closing costs, that 1.5% to 2% will probably be a little bit closer to the 2%, which will be direct money out of your pocket, not going to the down payment, but could set you apart from the rest of the crowd. Because again, just because your price isn't necessarily the highest doesn't mean that the seller won't net the most going with your contract. If the agent on the listing side really understands the contract, which is up to the buyer's agent to detail those closing costs when presenting that offer. So let's jump into on my iPad. So hopefully you guys can follow through pretty easily and understand some of the closing costs that happen here in Fort Collins and Northern Colorado. Let's go. So in Fort Collins, we in Larimer County, Colorado, we pay property taxes in arrears. And when we look at our $550,000 purchase price, that's about $7.63 per day. And that is why closing quicker is a value to the seller. They might not necessarily think about it this way, but it's $66. You know, that's 10 days, 11 days of your favorite cappuccino at your favorite coffee shop. Now, these numbers add up when you look at them in the aggregate, the full picture. So, you know, $7.63 isn't much, but over 9 days gets between $63 to $66 saved. So if you can detail to your seller that, hey, we're going to close not in 30 days, in 21 days, and yeah, that gets your seller the money 9 days sooner, but it also saves them $65 in property taxes. Association prorations, transfer fee, working capital reserves, and status letters. These are things that, and you know, we have a lot of HOAs, and especially in the southeast side of Fort Collins. Midtown, not too much. Old Town, not too much. But if you're buying in the southeast side of town, you will find yourself within more and more HOAs. And this kind of holds the same for metro districts. As you get outside of Fort Collins, Timnath, Wellington, Severance, Windsor, we have metro districts which have similar prorations. And again, HOAs are done on a daily basis, so 9 days, you save some money. But here is where contractually you can tell the seller, hey, we are going to pay for the transfer fee. We will pay for the status letter. We will pay for the working capital. And these are things that could be quickly added up between $150 to $300 for your transfer fee, $150 to $300 for your status letter. So anywhere between $300 to $500 that you are now saving your seller by paying those expenses out of your pocket. The payoffs, the mortgage payoff, that is why you're offering the price that you're offering. Hopefully that the seller is making a lot of money in this market and will be able to easily pay off that mortgage, but that will be paid by the seller. Commissions. This is an interesting topic. One thing that we have discussed with my clients is, hey, let's net the seller a few extra bucks by either A, decreasing my commission and then you guys paying that, or having a flat fee paid off of my commission that the buyer then pays for. So again, as a buyer, this could increase your out-of-pocket expenses, but saves the seller direct money and is kind of, kind-hearted, good, warm-hearted type feel, because commissions are definitely going to be one of the largest expenses for the seller. And if you're saying, hey, we will take off some of this expense for you, us as the buyer will pick up the work that our agent is doing. So I would say this is negotiable. See what you are willing and able to do, because again, this is direct money out of your pocket that you would agree to pay directly to the buyer's agent on top of whatever those other closing costs and down payment are. Here is another contractually agreed upon fee that is typically paid by the seller, but you as a buyer could pick up. When we close in Colorado, we use a title company to close. We don't go through attorneys, we go through a title company. And what you are offering as a seller is title insurance. Generally speaking, the seller pays for that, but you as a buyer can take on that expense. Depending on the price of the home, which is similar to insurance, it is based on the value of the home, you can pay that fee, that insurance amount. And on a $550,000 house, we're looking probably closer to $1,700, but as you go up, $1 million, $2 million type deal houses, you could exceed that $5,000, but for our purposes, we'll look at $1,700. Extended coverage, again, you could pay for that as the seller or as the buyer for the seller. And then the closing fees, which are generally split 50-50, so about 160, 170 bucks per person. You could be then paying, yourself, $340, not $380, but you could paying that for your entire portion for the seller, which comes out to, about $2,200 when you look everything involved, $2,100 to $2,200. So, and the final thing is the prorations. As a seller, you've lived in the house, the title company will force you to pay off those utilities, water, gas, electric. They will withhold a certain amount depending on the calls, phone calls, and information they have received from the utility companies, and will withhold that information. Will withhold those fees and refund you as a seller that portion that you didn't have to pay. So getting down to it, HOA in the metro, we're looking at $300 to $500. Title charges, I would say $2,100 to $2,200. So if you didn't want to negotiate commissions, if you didn't want to have to take on that expense as a buyer, and you wanted the seller to take on that, we could be looking at $2,400 to $2,700, netting the seller more if you're willing to take on some of those costs on a property around that $550,000 mark. Now, it is vitally important, if you are going to take on these costs, that your buyer's agent detail to the seller and the listing agent that, hey, our offer might not necessarily be the highest, but if it's close, we are netting you $2,000 to $2,500 more than that other contract that might be $1,000 higher, but not netting you as much. So this is a tool and a strategy that I have used that is real dollars out of pocket to you as a buyer here in Fort Collins and Northern Colorado, but could set you apart, showing that your goodwill, your desire to secure this property comes with paying these fees that would historically have been paid for by the seller. So hopefully this video has helped you understand the process and what has been paid for historically by the sellers and what you could leverage to use as your tool, trick, and strategy here at Fort Collins and Northern Colorado. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything like that, definitely feel free to reach out, call, text, or email. And if you're looking at buying and using somebody who has used these strategies to secure a contract, please give me a call, text, or email. Until next time, guys, take care.